Bordeaux is considered by many to be the wine capital of the world. But are their sports venues anything to whine about? Let's find out. Here are the stadiums and arenas of Bordeaux, France. This 100-year-old stadium was way ahead of its time when it was built, but they soon got the clocks fixed. The architecture was also ahead of its time, both in terms of its aesthetics and its technology. The main claim to fame is the fact that it was the first stadium in the world to have covered seating without pillars holding up the roof, which would obstruct some spectators' view. I'm not going to go into the fine technical details, but the reason they achieved this feat is because concrete is strong, and so they made the roof out of concrete. Damn, I said I wasn't going to go into the technical details. You might be thinking, hang on a second, about 2/3 of the seats are uncovered. That's not a very impressive roof. Well, the original stadium had a 400-metre long cycling track around it. So when that was removed, more seating was added to turn it into a rectangular stadium, more or less. As you can tell from the giant inflatable rugby ball, this is a rugby ground. But it wasn't always that way. Patinoire de Mériadeck. Yet again, this is a venue that was ahead of its time when it opened in 1981. In fact, if you told me it was built 10 years ago, I'd believe you. It's only when you get up really close to it that you can see its metaphorical wrinkles. Once again, it's the roof that is this building's most remarkable aspect, although this one is certainly a lot more spectacular than the previous one, both on the outside and within. Another aspect I appreciate is how the seating layout matches the shape of the roof, leaving it with these funky-looking elevated corner sections. The funky-looking elevated corner section is an underrated feature. The building is so grand and impressive that it's almost hard to believe it has a capacity of just over 3,000. But yeah, there actually aren't that many seats. Matmut Atlantique. Bordeaux has a reputation of elegance, and this stadium's design is the epitome of elegance. The exterior consists of a forest of slender white metal columns, which not only looks good, but it helps it blend into the landscape a little bit. I also like how there's no signage or anything. They only advertise to those flying above the ground, rather than those on the ground. Inside, they have decided to deviate from the all-white philosophy of the exterior, as the seating is done up in a mosaic of white and grey, just to spice things up a bit. Oh, a bit of blue as well. Wow, that is adventurous. Navy blue is, after all, the predominant colour of the club's kit. It's a kit that might look familiar to fans of the A-League club Melbourne Victory. Who copied who? We'll never know. The stadium was built just prior to the 2016 Euros, where it hosted a few games. The club had previously played at Stade Chaban-Delmas since 1938. Vélodrome de Bordeaux. Or if you believe the sign out front, it's called Stadium Vélodrome. But I don't believe it. The French hate the English language like I hate brioche bread. By that I mean they don't really hate it, they just prefer other varieties. They really like their distinctive roofs in this city, don't they? This was designed by an architect whose designs keep popping up on the channel, Roger Taillibert. I'm sure the budget for this velodrome was about 1/10 of the one in Montreal that he designed. It is like one big elaborate shed, comprised of a huge timber frame and corrugated iron. It is very bright and airy in here, which is helped along by the star-shaped skylight up top. Man, can you imagine how this place smelled shortly after opening? Timbery goodness. Stade André-Moga. You know, it might sound strange, but I'm glad we finally have a stadium that's not all that special. I was starting to get a bit jealous of Bordeaux. This is the training ground of the rugby club we saw earlier, but also the full-time home of another rugby club with a 5-worded name that I can't be bothered to try and pronounce. But yeah, compared to what we've seen, this is just a bog-standard little rugby ground. However, unlike Chaban-Delmas, every seat in the house is undercover, so that's a plus. Arkéa Arena. This is the largest arena in the city. It was built as a replacement for Patinoire de Mériadeck. which was seen as no longer being ideal for hosting cultural events, at least not for a city of Bordeaux's esteem. This is primarily a music venue, which usually consists of an amphitheatre-style layout, so we normally would just give these sort of venues a quick mention and then move on. However, as you can see, it can convert into a 360-degree configuration for basketball and the like. In this form, it looks like a fully fledged sports arena. I guess one thing it's missing is a center-hung video board, but that is understandable. If you're wondering why a basketball team doesn't call this place home on a permanent basis, well, that's because they have their own home. One called Palais des Sports de Bordeaux, which they share with the women's volleyball team. It's situated right amongst the beautiful terracotta tile roofed buildings of the city centre. They've done well to ensure that the arena doesn't stick out like a sore thumb, although the attached parking garage does a little bit. Inside, it's a cosy little venue that is even whiter than Matmut Atlantique. Up until recently, it was used as a theatre, hence the unconventional horseshoe layout. You can clearly see where a stage might be placed. However, it was renovated in 2016 to properly transform it back into a sport-specific venue. Although that doesn't prevent it from hosting whatever this is. Stade Sainte-Germaine. You could argue that this is the least impressive stadium in the city, but there is at least one category where it bests the rest. It is the oldest stadium in the city, having opened in 1895, there or thereabouts. Stade Bordelais, a football and rugby club, have been playing here ever since, so it has plenty of history. Not just regarding domestic sports either. It even hosted a game involving the French national football team back in 1922. It was 4-0 to Spain. They haven't played here since. Some say it's due to the disappointing result, some say it's because Stade de France has slightly better amenities. Who can say which is true? So there you have it. It may have been Bordeaux, it wasn't a Bordeaux. Far from it. There were some very interesting venues amongst them. As for my favourite, well, Matmut Atlantique could be my favourite French stadium overall. So obviously I have to choose Patinoire de Mériadeck. It's a work of art. Consider subscribing if you haven't done so already. It's what Shrek would have done if he were alive today. Thanks for watching, have a good one.